Welcome to the back porch. If the Manson family had a clubhouse, it would probably look like this. So here we are, another picture of the Good family. What would look like is Sandra Good right here, but I don't think that is Sandra Good. It's Sandra Good's doppelganger. Yeah, this is the Good family, but the way the Good family is described, and there's not many places that describe the Good family. I mean, Sandy describes a little bit herself in that last letter where we were reading about her older sister, Deborah, which would be her. And then she also had another sister, Virginia. And then she's talked about having a stepbrother too. Where this guy came from, nobody knows. I don't know. I mean, it sounds like, because they got divorced in between here, now she's got a stepbrother. I don't know who was messing around here, but it sounds like maybe somebody was. But I don't know that. All I know is that's the stepbrother from what she says in her last letter, to Charlie. And then she talks about her sister Deborah in that letter. Well, there's also a book that talks about Virginia, or Ginny. And I think that's who that is. And I'll show you why. And I think that's actually Sandra Good right there. Even though that looks like a spitting image of Sandra Good, don't it? They're like twins. We have another image here, a spitting image of Sandra Good. But it's not. It's her sister, Virginia. They do look a whole lot alike, I'll tell you. Yeah, I keep telling you about stuff that you don't even know. The other day, when I was making the video about Sandra Good the first time in the letter that she wrote to Charlie, in it, there were some things that I read and I put in the video, but I look back at the video and they're not there now. So I'm thinking, these people probably don't even know what I'm talking about, half-brother and those things, because I didn't even never mention those. Well, they're in this part of the letter. We're going to read them right now. I don't know how it got left out of there, but anyway, Sandra Good has a half-brother that we're talking about at the beginning there, that I don't know how she got a half-brother along the way, but anyway, she does. And we're going to get to that now, because I kept saying things like she's got a whole family of Christians in her family, like this half-brother's one of them, but I never brought him up. So anyway, you see where we're going with this. We're going back to that letter that she wrote to Manson, that little Easter card where she talks about her family, and she's talking about her sister Deborah, or Debbie. Okay, if you look back on the last video where I was reading this little card that Sandra wrote to Charlie, I read this part. It says, I got a sister from the past who cropped up. I never really knew her. She married a cop who beat her. Now she's been married to a Marine drill sergeant, and has for 15 or more years. She's always been mean, selfish woman with huge tits, jealous of me. She's about 42. She used to be like my mom. Okay, I think that's in the last video. And even the part down here is in the last video. But there's a part in here that's not in it that describes these two people that we were actually talking about. So let's go on from where it says she was always like my mom. Anyway, months ago, she wrote me. She found Jesus and said that Susan, Sadie, is her sister in Christ. And so is Tex and Pat Boone and a bunch of other people. She and her husband moved from Southern California to Oregon. She has a big garden, feeds the wildlife. I've been writing her. She said she's gonna write Susan, that she's been planning to write her for a long time. I asked her if she was writing a book or what her trip was. She said no book, but she was curious about me. She said my half-brother is a Navy recruiter and has a Jesus radio show in another town in Oregon. I'm trying to see the psychology or the is in all this. And that was in the last video too. But we left out that part, and now there you go. She has a half brother who has a Jesus radio show. Hey, so this little guy here had himself a Jesus radio station in Oregon, spouting out on the airwaves. Wonder if he ever mentioned during his show that he had a crazy sister. Two crazy sisters, actually, because we're getting to the other one here soon. Because Sandra wasn't the only far out sister in this family. There was another one. The one that looked just like her. But we were talking about her. She's the one that sent the letter to Sandra. I think that's Sandra. I really think that's Sandra and not that. Because people think that's Sandra. But I don't. Especially by the way that what we're going to get into about how the guy says that, who knew her, who wrote a book about this girl, says that Sandra was the youngest. This girl was the middle, and this girl was the oldest. And the guy didn't even mention this half. And he didn't know what the people's names were either, which we covered the other day on our birth certificate. I already know what you're saying. I don't even know who the people are in the picture. Well, it's not me, actually. Here's how this stuff works. You know, do you remember the time when both of these people, Sandra Good and Lynette Fromm, you got in trouble, or Fromm, or however you want to say her name? People, man, all different ways. However you say it, people would tell you you said it wrong. I can say, Fromm. People, no, it's Frommy. Then I can say, Frommy, and people will say, no, it's Fromm, you idiot. Anyway, I am an idiot. Let's move on why I'm an idiot about this picture too, and I don't know who the people are in it. I know it's the Good family. Have you ever seen it before? No, you haven't ever seen it before. Why haven't you ever seen it before? Because here's how this stuff happens. After these people got in trouble, all their stuff's still sitting there, and people sell it. And when they sell it under like, hey, here's some stuff out of Sandra Good's family album, and it's Sandra Good. And that looks so much like Sandra Good that they say that that's Sandra Good. Well, it might not be Sandra Good if she was actually, like I'm showing you other pictures out of yearbooks of people that look like Sandra Good, that's actually her sister, and her sister was the middle person, and that's why I don't really know. This is like, again, we're winging it here. This is stuff that I've collected that was sold. The bill of goods to me was this was Sandra Good, and I just don't think it's Sandra Good. I think it's Virginia Good. I think that's Sandra Good. You know, that's it. That's how I've come to the conclusion that I don't have any conclusion about this picture. So let's move on. I don't know, what do you think? That's what the back porch is all about. You guys come in my door and we hang out and we try to talk about stuff that nobody's ever talked about, really. And I know they haven't talked about this picture much. So let's move on and talk about Jenny a little bit. This is her sister, Jenny Good, Virginia Good. I guess they called her Jenny. I don't know. I didn't know her, so her name's Virginia Good. But she looks just like Sandra Good. We can't forget about the newspaper article that Sandy's mom did with the newspaper. Ruth Eleanor Dixon. I try to forget her, the woman said, but she keeps coming back to haunt us. All I can say now is we've done our best to forget, to put it out of our minds. I've gone through the guilty phase, the sleepless nights, wondering if I could have changed anything. The words are those of an anguished mother, whose daughter is Sandra Good. Along with Lynette Squeaky Fromm, was an early disciple of Charles Manson. Miss Fromm, charged with attempting to assassinate President Ford, lived with Miss Good, 27, in a Sacramento attic. Her mother, in an interview with the San Diego Union, recalled the time Sandra was alleged to have said she had finally reached a point where I can kill my parents. She's still afraid of her daughter after the remark and consented to the interview only if her name and address are not used. Sandy's parents were divorced when she was 4. The woman said twice she said Sandy nearly died of respiratory ailments. Those times the doctor told me she was dead. The woman recalled once I even left the hospital after they told me she died. They called me back. Why did you have to pull her through? The woman has not seen her daughter in person for 5 years, she said. There's a book that was written about the sister Ginny Good by one of her boyfriends. You can still buy it today. It's like 79 bucks though. But don't be feared, because I'll give you a link below where you can go, and it's a whole page. I mean, this guy's, his webpage is still up. He has the whole book there. You can read the whole thing. You can. It's mainly about him and other people. There's a little bit in there of Sandra Good. We'll get to what's in there about Sandra Good. But in his book, he mentions Virginia Good was born March the 5th, 1941. She was the second of 3 sisters. Her older sister was Deborah Good. Her younger sister was Sandra Sandy Good. Sandy was famous for her connections with the Manson family and Charles Manson himself. So he's the one that makes me think that, and then looking at the high school pictures of Virginia on how she looks exactly like Sandra Good, and then buying these photographs from, you know, not actually, Sandra Good didn't sell them to me and point out who all the people were. I'll get into that too. Let me get into that for a second on how you can buy these things, these crime collectibles that you can see me come up with all the time, that you've never seen before. Especially, I love pictures and information and letters and stuff like that. But there's other things that you can buy too. And let's get into that right now, because I know you're baffled on that. Okay, so how did some of these things even come out into existence, into the world? Like, maybe Sandy hasn't even seen these pictures for a while. Who knows? I don't know. But anyway, what happens is when these people get arrested and there's nobody there to go collect their goods from this tiny attic apartment that they have, well, I'm going to show you on this receipt. The U.S. attorney goes in, gathers up their stuff, and they get rid of it for them. They'll sell it and they'll give them the money. And that's what happened with some items here that I'm going to show you that sold for pretty cheap, actually. Altogether it was 200 bucks, and they got 9 items, and this is what they were. I mean, they're in jail, headed to prison, and probably by 1976 they're already in prison. Received the following buck knives from U.S. Attorney, and with the written permission and signatures of its 2 legal owners, Sandra Good and Lynette Fromey, or Frome, however you prefer. I agree to purchase 9 buck knives at the cost of $21 each. And then names Model 119, Model 301, Model 110, and over here they are initialed, like the 4 knives are initialed by Lynette Fromey. And then this one is initialed by Sandra Good. So basically all the knives belong to Lynette and Sandra, and they signed them all away for 200 bucks after they were in prison. That's how you get this stuff. Can you imagine? $21 each for buck. You can't even buy a regular buck knife now for $21. They're like well over 300 bucks. These would be well over 5. Would you like to have their buck knives and the sheaths? You've seen Sandra Good walking in the court with that thing on. Can you imagine what it's worth today? I didn't mean you could probably buy a buck knife for 100 to 150 bucks. But these particular ones of theirs, the models nowadays, if you look up the antique one, you can't buy them for they're like 250, 300 bucks. So these knives that have documentation that they were theirs and they signed them away, and Sandra Good's wearing this thing into court, can you imagine what that thing's worth? Woohoo! But that's how you get this stuff. And let's get back to her family and the book that the guy wrote. He doesn't talk a lot about Sandy in the book. I mean, he talks a lot of things. I mean, he doesn't even really talk all about Ginny in the book. But what he does mention about Sandy in the book is when she used to work in this building. And let's read that part to you, because I found that quite interesting, that Sandy actually hadn't even had a job. All I personally remember about Sandy is that she used to work as a sales clerk at the Emporium on Market Street. She sold scarves and plastic headbands and was a lot less charismatic than Jenny. Less compelling, more drab. That was before she shaved her head bald, carved a swastika into her forehead, and hung out with the rest of the Manson chicks chanting spooky stuff outside the Hall of Justice. And way before she and Squeaky set up their own website.
I suppose I need to start with Jenny. She was the first hippie, in case anyone's ever wondered. That tidbit of information probably never made its way into any history books, but it's true. I have proof, documentary evidence. She was also the older sister of Sandra Good, the same Sandra Good who used to be one of the chicks in the so-called Manson family. Sandy's still one of the chicks in the so-called Manson family. I saw her on TV a while ago, talking about how she and Squeaky had set up a website to show what a bum rap poor Charlie got. When I get my sister to stick this all up on the internet for me, I'll have her link it to the Charlie Manson site. I'm pretty sure I still have a letter Ginny sent me about her sister and the so-called Manson family, back before anyone had ever heard of them. I've got all kinds of letters and things, stuff I haven't looked at in years. I think I'll go ahead and start with a biography of sorts. Just write down whatever I vaguely recollect Ginny telling me about what happened to her before I met her. I always used to tell her I was going to write a book about her someday. That was probably partly why she even liked me in the first place. Oh well, better late than never.
Sandy is a total hippie who was living with the Beach Boys in Malibu and now is with prospectors in the desert teaching Dean Martin's daughter how to lose her ego. They cluck their tongues about that bad shape Mia Farrow and Nancy Sinatra's heads are in, although Miss Farrow gave away her clothes and is living ascetically. She just can't give up her image. I would certainly like to see my sister after reading her letters. She hikes barefoot in the desert forever, and she used to delete my mystical propensities. She's an Aquarian, Pisces cusp, which goes straight along with what she's doing now, an absolutely rebellious, unconventional mystic. I sort of envy her.
Virginia Dixon Good was born on March 5th, 1941. She spent her childhood in one or another of those sleepy little seaside communities down along the Southern California coast, north of San Diego. Her mother was too busy for kids. She had 3 daughters. Ginny was her second daughter. Sandy was her third. I forget the first daughter's name. I can't remember Ginny's mother's name either. I might have blanked it out. Her father's name was George F. Good. I never knew what the F stood for. There were so many things I never knew. Ginny's mother couldn't have said for sure why she'd even had kids, except that having kids was what one did. Kids were annoying. She couldn't understand what the hell they were talking about, for one thing. She didn't know what the Salvadorian maid was jabbering about half the time either, but at least the maid understood what she was saying. Rosalie, goddammit, if I find one more grain of sand in this kitchen, I'm going to kill you. Do you understand? As long as it had just been her and her husband, Ginny's mother had always been the center of attention. But when she started churning out daughters one after another, the kids seemed to think that they were the center of attention. That got to be goddamned annoying after a while, and that it wasn't their fault just made it all the more annoying. Here she was, a bright, attractive, capable woman, stuck in a marriage she had known wasn't going to last before her first daughter was born. But who could she blame for that?
So as I was saying, if you want to check out the book, I'll have it in the link below where, I'm not sure if the guy's got all the parts of the link there or not still now. I don't know. But I'll put it down there anyway. I know parts of it are there, but I have actually the book on a PDF. So I was looking at it from that, and then I went to his site to look at another part, and it was missing. So I don't know if all the parts are there, but some of them are because I just looked. And anyway, you can look at his book there, and if you can't read it there, he has this, he's made this video, it's like 3 parts, where he reads the book to you. It's free and everything. It's on the site too, and I looked at it as well, and it's still there, and he's still reading the book. It's just not on YouTube, it's on another site. It's called Vimeo or something like that, but it's free, and I don't know if he even has commercials on it. It's got Beach Boys music on it and every copyright music on it and stuff, so I don't think it really has commercials on it. But I'll have that link down there, so if you want to go look at the whole book, I mean, it's pretty interesting to, you know, get an inside look of what Sandra Good's family was like. And the book will tell you things like Sandra Good, she only has 1 lung. I don't know if you know that. She's quite loud on 1 lung, but you know, it mentions in the book that she only has 1 lung. The sister, she died in 1982 of an overdose of drugs and alcohol. And amazingly enough, this guy credits Sandra Good's sister with being named and called the very first hippie. I don't know how much there is to believe in that, but she's the very first hippie. And then Sandra Good was the very first Slippy. Again, I'll show you these 5 pictures that I have that probably cost me more than this video will ever make. And until next time, we come back and talk about who knows what. I mean, sometimes I sit and think about it. Sometimes it's like, just go talk about something. Today I was thinking about it because I forgot about the piece that, you know, I was like, looking at the other video, I was like, wait a minute, what happened to her stepbrother in there who was like running the little missionary service on the radio down in Oregon, and it wasn't there. So I'm like, I need to put that in there because that's important to show that she has. Oh, Pat Boone was interesting too because, I mean, last week I was just sitting with Pat Boone. The guy's like 91 years old now. He was at the J.C. Bring thing, right there with us. I thought that was cool. Me and Pat Boone went to the show. All right, until next time. It's really hot. I mean, I hope the heat goes away pretty soon. They said it's unofficially the end of summer this week, but unofficially means it's going to be hot for the next month here in Los Angeles. So, I don't know when I'm coming back. I'll come back when it's cool. Until then, peace.